Hey everyone, Aiden from Push Square here. So this week I rolled credits on Alan Wake 2, which has to be one of my most anticipated games of the year. So this here is my review, which you can also find in written form on the Push Square website, but this has some nice crispy 4K footage, so I hope you enjoy. Sitting down to write this review made me feel a little like Alan Wake himself, tapping away at his typewriter in the writer's room. I'm not quite sure where the page will take me, even though I have so much swirling around in my mind. That is the effect of Alan Wake 2, a rip-roaring horror experience from Remedy Entertainment that innovates in just about every way possible. It's the sequel fans of the series have been waiting over a decade for, but it's also so much more. We're reintroduced to Bright Falls, the quaint lakeside town from the first game, in brutal bloody fashion. A ritualistic murder has brought FBI agent Saga Anderson and her partner to Bright Falls to investigate. The opening hours feel like a classic murder mystery, hitting all the hallmarks of the genre with stunning finesse. But it really doesn't take long for Remedy to do what Remedy does best: get weird. For some, this will start from the very get, as Saga's partner, Alex Casey, doesn't just share the name of Alan Wake's most popular detective character, but also the likeness of creative director Sam Lake. It's the first strand in a web of the meta-mystery that Remedy is spinning, that only gets weirder and more impressive the deeper you delve into its 15 to 20 hour campaign. To say that I was enthralled is putting it lightly. While the 2010 original certainly has a pseudo-cult following reignited by the Control Alan Wake DLC, Alan Wake 2 is on another level. Hell, it's on a different planet. Gone is the stilted narration for intriguing and purposeful dialogue. The alternating camera perspective is now swapped out for a Resident Evil-like third-person one. And while the original was never really a looker, Alan Wake 2 graphically trumps most games on PS5 with ease. But one of my favourite improvements lies in the dual protagonists. At a certain point in the game, you are able to choose between missions as Alan or Saga. Now you can rinse through Alan's story before really even getting into Saga's, or vice versa. I personally opted to alternate between the two after each chapter, which resulted in flawless pacing. Each protagonist has their own mission style, with Saga going down the more traditional horror detective route, and Alan opting for warping labyrinths of the mind. Much to my surprise, however, both connected campaigns maintain the same level of entertainment. I was never dreading switching back to one character or the other. They both complement each other brilliantly. And there's also never a dull moment or not another one of these segments, which were regular occurrences in the original game. Yet despite all of the changes that Remedy has made, Alan Wake 2 stays true to the series with a novelistic flair to its storytelling. There are twists and turns aplenty, amplified by the returning episodic structure, weird side characters both new and old, and creeping doubts that left me questioning what's real. And that's all wrapped up in a palpable atmosphere so thick you can practically smell the damp forest pine of its setting. I couldn't get enough of the story, which becomes all the more ambitious the further it goes. And as the third entry in this Remedy connected universe, fans of Control as well as Alan Wake will be thrilled to see the two interweave in more meaningful ways than I ever expected it to. If you're worried that you'll feel out of the loop, I definitely recommend replaying the original game, or at least watching a story recap, and that involves Control 2 to a certain degree. This is a sequel in the truest sense of the word, and it really doesn't hold back for new players despite the 13-year gap between it and its predecessor. That being said, there are moments of this story that left me with full body chills and some especially nerve-wracking levels that I'll not soon forget. There's a lot to wrap your head around, but once you get there, oh my, it's worth the effort. All of this is aided by a streamlined gameplay experience. Now you're still tasked with dousing enemies in light before blasting their brains out, but it's now much snappier, ditching the rechargeable batteries from the original and giving each one a set number of light charges meant that I was a lot more battery conscious as I delved deep into darkened areas. The new perspective certainly makes you feel like you're in the trenches, but with your expanding weaponry and a degree of tactics, combat maintains that perfect, vulnerable badass balance. The only minor disappointment is that enemy variety has remained pretty similar to the first outing in Bright Falls. There's never that spine-tingling feeling when you first encounter a licker in Resident Evil 2, for example, although I'd argue that you're comparing two different types of horror at that point. And the thing is, Alan Wake 2's regularity of combat encounters was so well paced that I was never bored. If I really had to bring up some kind of complaint about the game, it would be the puzzles. Quite often you'll be finding keys and codes to unlock gates and stashes. On the surface, they're fairly inoffensive, but more than once I found myself traipsing through levels, confused as to where to go and what to do. Without any objective markers, some of the mandatory puzzles can be a little bit frustrating, although the minimal HUD also amplifies the immersion, so it's a sort of pick your battles scenario here. Speaking of immersion though, I've got to talk about visuals and the masterful presentation that Remedy has conjured up here. Whether you're exploring the dense forest surrounding Cauldron Lake or the nightmarish rendition of New York in the Dark Place, the detail and visual flair that Remedy has achieved is nothing short of astounding. The game bounces back and forth between in-game cinematics and gameplay and full live-action material, sometimes at the same time. The lighting in particular will leave you begging for a photo mode, something Remedy has confirmed is coming post-launch. It's honestly hard to think of a game with unwavering direction quite like this. But what impresses even more is how much of a technical feat Alan Wake 2 is, and almost in a quiet sense of the word. While graphics are nice, the non-existent loading times will really make you perk up. Whether it's switching to Saga's case-cracking mind place or entirely changing the look of a level in an instant by rewriting its narrative, I was constantly reminded why this release ditched last gen. This is definitively next gen or current gen. While it's not as flashy as something like Spider-Man 2's fast travel transition, the instant switching of levels continued to impress me all the way to the very end. DualSense haptics also does a good job of highlighting those changes, with thuds and rumbles tying into the sound effects and level switches. It's not the best haptic functionality I've ever felt, but it does weave into the experience in a way that amplifies it rather than pulling your attention away from it. Now, to quickly cover performance, I played in performance mode, which runs at 1440p with a 60 frames per second aim, and maybe outside a slight tremor of frame rate every once in a while, I had no issues here. There's also a 4K 30 quality mode for those looking for it, but it actually didn't touch this at all. In terms of bugs, I had heard some issues here or there with the game on PS5, but my personal experience was completely fine. The biggest bug I had was title cards for new chapters not showing up, which of course wasn't that big of a deal, and it sorted itself out by the time I'd finished the game. Like a mystery once thought solved, Alan Wake 2 reopens the case for what's possible in the genre. Now, it's a delight to relive classic horror titles through modern remakes, but what Remedy has cooked up here is something special. A gust of fresh air aiming to revitalise video game horror. There's expansive lore and a twisting story that might not be for everyone, but the developer packs so many exciting and unique ideas into this ambitious sequel that you cannot help but play along with a nervous smile on your face. With stunning visuals, pitch perfect tone and atmosphere, brilliant pacing, and a fascinating mystery to sink your teeth into, there are no twists or turns about it. Alan Wake 2 is an all-timer. Thank you for checking out my Alan Wake 2 review. Leave a like if you're picking this one up now that it's out on PS5. Remember, if you're in the market for more PlayStation video content just like this, then hit that subscribe button. I appreciate you as always for sticking around, and until next time, I've been Aiden, and this has been Push Square.